So I was having a discussion with my partner Ryan, and he asked me who are the top 5 wrestlers in MMA history. And it's a little bit harder than you may think of a discussion because who are the best wrestlers who then went into MMA, or who wrestles the best in MMA? For example, Johnny Hendricks is officially ranked the second best high school wrestler of all time. Now, he went on to have one of the best collegiate careers as well, but he officially got a ranking as the #2 high school wrestler in American history. To remind you, in the national finals for high school, Johnny Hendricks beat Ben Askren 11-0. Johnny Hendricks didn't like to wrestle within MMA. It was one of those things. Josh Koscheck had an undefeated NCAA championship and had a double leg like the sport had almost never seen, but didn't really like to use it. So I don't know how you can really put guys like that on the list, though they were decorated. Daniel Cormier himself says that Yoel Romero is the greatest wrestler to ever go into mixed martial arts. And if he was to look on paper at Olympic and world medals, he would be right. Unless you wanted to make the argument of Henry Cejudo, who was the youngest Olympic champion of all time. You see what I'm saying? It can get a little interesting. Aaron Pico would have a claim somewhere within here as a guy resume-wise, amateur wrestling-wise, who then crossed over to mixed martial arts, but that does not mean that any of them could wrestle as well as my number 5. Who is Randy Couture? Randy Couture came in to mixed martial arts at 34 years old and was called the Natural because he was one of these guys who was just a natural. He didn't need that first time out, ring rust, what am I doing, newness, scared. He was able to close the distance, get a hold of his opponent. He essentially is the one who the phrase dirty boxing was coined after him. Jens Pulver actually coined the phrase dirty boxing, but Jens applied that phrase to Randy Couture. He was a very complete wrestler in the 3 styles. Collegiately, he did well. Freestyle, he was proficient in, and won his championships and got his acclaim in Greco-Roman. But I think that it was the Greco-Roman wrestling that was able to transfer so well to mixed martial arts and the dirty boxing. Randy was not one of these come across the ring and hit you with a double leg guys. He would close the distance. He would do it in an upright posture, which is how Greco-Roman is contested, and it's also how MMA is contested. I have Randy Couture as my number 5. Number 4, I don't think you could make an all-around top 5 wrestler list and not include John Jones. John Jones, as an amateur, won the highest levels of everything that he ever tried to win. Let me give you an example. He tried to become a state champion for his high school. He succeeded. He went on to the junior college, and while the junior college is often looked down on by your Division I athletes, he was in junior college. The biggest thing that he can win is the junior college nationals, which he did win. By the way, I don't believe he has been taken down in MMA. Aside, I have to say this because Gustafsson did get him down, but one of the reasons Gus got him down, he just had that element of surprise. Gus was a kickboxer. John didn't see it coming. He just didn't. Even in his matches with Daniel Cormier, while many of you might say Daniel took him down, there was enough scramble. There was enough get back to your feet just fast enough to make even the greatest referees have a debate of was it a takedown. Then when you look at offensively how well he's able to do, I think you would be very insincere to not put John on the list. And for me, he comes in at number 4. Number 3, and possibly the surprise of the list, Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez makes the list. Not only do I not recall a time that he was taken down, but I have seen him in fights where he needed a takedown. He preferred to come out there and grind. He preferred to be in your face. He preferred to use Western boxing. Lefts and rights and crosses and hooks. This was his preferred style. But every now and then he'd slip a kick in just to throw you off. And every now and then where he needed to regroup, catch his breath and turn to a takedown and grind an opponent out for a little bit, he succeeded. I don't recall him failing. I don't recall him throwing up air balls. And he would mix those takedowns in just enough to keep his opponents guessing. Defensively, his hips were right where they needed to be. Opponents didn't even try to wrestle with him. He was able to throw them off. He had good footwork. He had good movement. He had good clinches. Cain Velasquez comes in at number 3. The second best MMA wrestler of all time goes to Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes was a 2-time Division I All-American, and he was also one of these guys who would still go and catch what we call open tournaments. And all an open tournament means is that anybody of any age is free to enter. So there was a tournament that many people believe to be the toughest collegiate tournament in the world. That is now met with some competition, but it's called the Midlands. And the Midlands took place in Illinois, which happens to be where Matt Hughes lives. And he would grab a singlet, and he would come out, and he would enter the Midlands. And he was doing this while he was active in MMA. And one thing about top wrestlers, MMA wrestlers, anybody can shoot a shot. Anybody can get to a leg or get to 2 legs or get to a clinch position. A wrestler will use that as a setup just to get to the next shot and to the 3rd shot and the 4th shot after that. It's called chain wrestling, but chain wrestling is something that you will only get if you are an active wrestler. If you stop going into practice rooms or you stop entering competitions, you will go back to 1 attack. The sport is good enough to stop 1 attack. The sport still to this day is not good enough to stop attacks 2 and 3 and 4. That is something that Matt Hughes, it was a tool that he kept sharp, and Matt Hughes comes in as the 2nd greatest MMA wrestler of all time. And number 1, how do you like this for a scumbag move, is a tie. Yes, a tie. That ruins a top 5 list, doesn't it? But you tell me. George St-Pierre not only did not get taken down outside of a match with Johnny Hendricks, he took down every single opponent he ever faced, including Johnny Hendricks. So you tell me how George St-Pierre is not on the list, and he has to now share the spot with Khabib Nurmagomedov, who also not only has never been taken down, has done the taking down of every opponent he's ever faced, and innovated the sport. Khabib Nurmagomedov is not near as good as a wrestler, meaning out in the open, out in the middle of the cage, as many of you believe him to be. If you go watch his fights a little closer, everything he does is designed to push you to the fence. Once you get on the fence, Khabib has ways to pull you off, use leg entanglements. Once he gets you down, he again is using traps and leg entanglements like the sport has never seen. Forcing guys to go and study his moves, forcing coaches to come in the practice room and show their athletes, did you see Khabib on Saturday? Look at what Khabib's doing. He has innovated and changed the sport. He makes the list. How do we have a tiebreaker? Let those boys figure it out.
Uncle Jill, Uncle Jill. There's no